This video discusses Samuel Taylor Coleridge's Kubla Khan. Samuel Taylor Coleridge, he was born in 1772 and died in 1834. He was a famous English poet, literary critic, philosopher and theologian, and a good friend of William Wordsworth. He is the founder of the Romantic movement in England and also a member of Lake Poets. He served volumes and collaborated with Charles Lamb, Robert Southey, and Charles Lyot. His popular poems are The Rime of the Ancient Mariner, Kubla Khan, as well as a major prose work, Biographia Literaria. His critical work, especially on William Shakespeare, was highly influential. Coleridge coined many familiar words and phrases, including suspension of disbelief. He has been influenced by the works of Ralph Waldo Emerson and American Transcendentalism. Let us see an overview of Kubla Khan. Kubla Khan was written in 1798, but it was not published until 1816. This poem, Kubla Khan, was issued and published along with Christabel and the Pains of Sleep. This was issued in a pamphlet. These are poems. Coleridge describes this poem as a fragment of a dream. That's a vision that he sees under the influence of opium, which he saw when he had fallen asleep after reading the account of Kubla Khan in an old books of travel written by Purchas. Kubla Khan is a brilliant achievement in the field of supernatural poetry. In this poem, Coleridge beautifully imagined and he skillfully described about the palace, about what he has read. This poem is sometimes given the title as A Vision in a Dream and a Fragment. Coleridge writes this poem after reading a work that describes Shangdu. Jiangdu is also known as Jiangnadu. It was a summer capital of the Yuan dynasty of China, which was founded by Kublai Khan, who is emperor of Shilu of Yuan. After he woke up from his sleep, he started to write the lines of the poetry. But immediately there was an interruption. He calls the person as a person from Porlock, which means he is an unwelcomed visitor when he was composing the poem Kubla Khan in the year 1797. And he claimed to have perceived the entire course of a dream, but was interrupted by the visitor from Porlock while in the process of writing it. Coleridge actually planned this poem to write about 200 to 300 lines, but due to the interruption caused between the writing process, he forgot the lines. And Coleridge, he left this poem unpublished and he kept it for a private readings for his friends until 1816. But Lord Byron, he prompted to publish this poem. The poem is different in style from other poems written by Coleridge. Let us see the stanza-wise summary of the poem. In Zandu did Kubla Khan a stately pleasure-doomed decree, where Alph the sacred river ran, through caverns measureless to man, down to a sunless sea. So twice 5 miles of fertile ground with walls and towers were girdled round, and there were gardens bright with sinuous rills, where blossomed many an incense-bearing tree, and here were forests ancient as the hills, enfolding sunny spots of greenery. In this stanza, the poet, in his dream, or in his imagination, he sees Kubla Khan in his capital city, Xanadu. He sees Kubla Khan commanding from his luxurious palace dome, and next to the palace there is a river of Alf that flows through the vast chambers and covers huge distance and also mixes into the sea where there is no sunlight. And this river Alf is not a real one, it is a fictional one, a mystical one. This word Alf, it resembles the first letter of Arabic, Alif, which probably symbolizes the river of knowledge for which the humans are thirsty. The capital of Kubla Khan is about 10 square kilometers with fertile land, which is surrounded by walls and towers in order to protect it. And there are beautiful gardens that surrounds the entire walls, through which a streamlet flows in a curved manner alongside the streamlet. There are trees and plants that has a sweet fragrance. In this place, Zanadu, there are forests which are very old, just as the hills, and the hills are covered with green plants over which sunlight falls. This first stanza of Kubla Khan is just a creativity of Coleridge. Let us see the second stanza. But oh, that deep romantic chasm which slanted down the green hill athwart a cedarn cover, a savage place as holy and enchanted as ever beneath a waning moon was haunted by women wailing for her demon lover. And from this chasm which ceaseless turmoil seething, as if this earth in fast thick pans were breathing, a mighty fountain momently was forced, amid whose swift half-intermitted burst, huge fragments vaulted like rebounding hail, or chaffy grain beneath the treasure's flail. In this stanza, Coleridge, he moves to a deeper level of imagination. He describes the divine creativity. There is a sloping hill with green plants across which there is a chasm or a deep gap covered with mosses. And the environment is wild and holy, just as a woman who can be seen in the decreasing moon, who is crying for her supernatural lover. The meaning of chasm is a deep hole in the ground, and in this chasm, that is the gap, there is an unending disturbance that he can hear. He says that through the gap, the earth is breathing angrily and water comes out with great force and then falls down. Coleridge explains that there is a duality of the movement, that is, the water raises high so that the stones are thrown out on either side of the chasm. And as the stones are thrown out, there was a holy river that comes out and flows through the woods in a zigzag direction. The river reaches the vast chambers and sings with noise into the silent sea. Let's see the third stanza. And mid these dancing rocks at once and ever, it flung up momently the sacred river. 5 miles mintering with a mazy motion, through wood and dale the sacred river ran. Then reached the caverns measureless to man, and sank in tumult to a lifeless ocean. And mid this tumult Kubla heard from far ancestral voice proposing war. The shadow of the doom of pleasure floated midway on the waves. where was heard the mingled measure from the fountain and the caves. It was a miracle of rare device, a sunny pleasure dome with caves of eyes. In this stanza, Coleridge he shows up his deepest level of imaginations, where he talks about human creativity and divine creativity combines, and as a result of it, artifacts is made. Artifact is an object that is made by a person. It is like a property created by humans. He says that Kubla Khan, while he heard the noise of the river that falls into the deep sea, Kubla Khan hears the voice of his dead ancestors who predict and foretell the future war that's going to happen. Coleridge then explains that the shadow of luxurious palace dome floats in the air where there's a combination of the noise of fountain and silence of cave is heard. Here we can see how Coleridge has imagined the two opposites, the two contradictory, like the sunny dome that's hot, that coexist with the cave ice that is cold. So it is thus the impulse of creativity which makes the contrary things like sun and ice, then dark and bright, flat or hilly, silent and sound that coexist together. Let us see stanza 4. A damsel with a dulcimer in a vision once I saw. It was an Abyssinian maid, and on her dulcimer she played, singing of Mount Obara. Could I revive within me her symphony and song? To such a deep delight it would win me, that with music loud and long, I would build that dome in air, that sunny dome, those caves of ice, and all who heard should see them there, and all should cry, beware, beware. His flashing eyes, his floating hair, weave a circle round him thrice, and close your eyes with holy dread. For he on honey dew hath fed, and drunk the milk of paradise. In this stanza, the poet explains his dream where he sees a damsel. Damsel means a virgin girl who is playing a dulcimer. Dulcimer is a musical instrument. This girl is playing a musical instrument and she appears like she is from a black race, that is black race of Africa, who is probably from Ethiopia. And she is playing the dulcimer and singing for Mount Obara. Obara means the river of Akbara, which joins the river Nile. The poet, by saying, could I revive in me her symphony and sound, he expresses the superiority of the damsel. And in spite of being an European, he praises a non-European, an Ethiopian. The poet also expresses his wishes here. He says that if at all he has the skills of symphony and music, just like the damsel, the girl, he would have built the dome like the pleasure dome of Kubla Khan, just like in the river with caves of ice, so that there is a possibility of constructing impossible artifact. And he says if he does that, he might have constructed just like how Kubla Khan has constructed his palace dome. The audience may see him and they would give their attention to his acts. They would have appreciated his attractive eyes and beautiful hair. He also says by looking at his palace, they would have weave a circle thrice around him. They would appreciate his poetry by reading it 3 times. And he says when the readers reads his poem 3 times, they go into a deeper level where they would have the willing suspension of disbelief. They would close their eyes of rationality with holy dread, which means that they will then go to their own imagination, just like Coleridge. He also says that the readers would then witness by creating the imaginary doom and ice cave in the air, and by having the symphony and music of the damsel, the girl, he would drink the milk of paradise, he would achieve the best pleasure. Hope this video helped you. If you have any suggestions, please write it down on the comment section. Do not fail to subscribe this channel. Thank you for listening.